Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. On this episode, we are joined by Daryl Barnes, aka Mr. Black Ovation, host and creator of the All Things Black podcast.
It scares me when people just accept something like this and not look deeper into it. It really scares me because you're eating from that plate and not necessarily saying, okay, well, hold on. Let me do a little bit more digging. Let me do a little bit more research. Let me at least give the balance or listen to a different perspective as to why this might be detrimental. It scares me, and black folks, for the most part, have had their way with eating from everybody else's plate, which again keeps us from the trajectory that we're supposed to be on in trying to get ourselves together. Black man, black woman, community, family. Something is always introduced to take us off that course.
Yo guys, this is Olufemi from the Sample Lounge, and you're listening to the Woke by Accident podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest. We are joined by podcast host, consultant, and audio engineer, Daryl Barnes. Welcome back to the show, Daryl. He has been on the show before on episode 57, where we discussed Botham Jean and Henrietta Lacks, and episode 116, where we discussed blackfishing. So very glad to have Daryl back. Mr. Black Ovation.
Hey, Jen.
How are you,
Thank you
sir?
for inviting me again. I'm well, and I pray you're well as well. Man, it's always a pleasure to be back on your show. I've heard nothing but great things about the show. You were highlighted recently with the Black Podcasters Association and Corey Gums. I thought that was incredible. Keep doing the phenomenal work that you're doing and having these type of conversations.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate that coming from you. I'll definitely love to have you on the show. And I love your voice. And I just think you have a great voice. And I love to share that with the public so they can enjoy it as well. So,
thank you very much.
All right, guys. So we have you're welcome. So today we have some topics we're going to get into. I was inspired by this one for an image that we had been seeing on Twitter, and I actually will try to bring that up actually, since I have the ability to do that. So an image of Jonathan Major on Ebony magazine had been going around, and there was discussion about if this was an example of escalation of the Black man. And the image, which had a Valentine's Day theme for the month of February, shows him wearing like a pink blanket or what have you, and his legs crossed and in a certain position, in which many are saying is a feminine position. And it's a photo shoot spread which has roses and different Valentine's Day types of themes. But I want to get discussion about whether you thought this was an example of masculine images toward the Black man.
I guess that's my cue. Oh boy. First of all, when you sent me this, because I wasn't fully aware of it, so I had a chance to kind of research, do a small amount of research on it, look through some Twitter threads, see what people were saying, and saw the photographs myself. Now, what I know of Jonathan Majors, first and foremost, is he's an excellent actor. He was in Lovecraft Country. He was Harder They Fall, I think it was. Played an excellent character on that movie with Idris Elba and Regina King. The man is phenomenal at his craft. So nothing against Jonathan Major. And I want to try to approach this in the best way possible, because you're talking about thoughts, you're talking about opinions, you're talking about perspectives, right? And there's a large community out there now that is following Mr. Majors. And from what I've read on some of the Twitter threads, there's a large section of people that absolutely adored what he was donning in those photographs.
Okay.
Let me start off by saying this. Jonathan Majors is an actor. He is contractually obligated to do what is within the scope of his contract. Now, me having a degree of experience in music and looking over some of these contracts, one of the things that was always perplexing to me about the contracts was the fact that in the contract, it said that for the individual signing the contract, that your image can be used, your image and your likeness can be used in whatever way that the business sees fit. And they can use your image and likeness in perpetuity, which essentially means that they can use it for ever, right? This is your image and your likeness. And they can use it globally, universally, how they see fit, whatever the case may be. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of times these individuals get into these contractual agreements not doing the thing that they would love to do, but they have to take direction from handlers, agents, and the like, right? So the photograph that I saw was not necessarily one that would suggest that Mr. Majors would dress himself as such. I've seen photographs with him with other clothing on, and there was nothing close or similar to what they donned him in the photographs. Now I get it. It was Valentine's Day, right? And what a perfect time to do what they did, right? So the pink and the red and whatnot. So, yeah, in my humble opinion, it was done in such a way. It was very strategic. I'm just going to be flat out with it. It was very strategically done to take this very masculine Black man and to, on a day of quote unquote love, kind of whittle away at his masculinity. And any other Black man that would have that masculine feel about them, and to kind of minimize the effect of that masculinity from that Black man. It's been done time and time and again. This is nothing new. If you go and do your research, it's really nothing new. So they did whittle away at his image, and they gave him an image that they wanted him to have. So the pink, the thigh boots, or whatever the hell that was that he was wearing, the particular facial expressions that he had, crossing the legs, it was not only done for, again, in my humble opinion, for the ladies, it was also done for a cross section of other individuals that would have loved to seen him in something like that. Now, again, he didn't necessarily have to agree to it, but he did. But he did. I'm assuming that he did, and this is where we're at. So, a long story short, we were talking about the emasculation of Black men. Does that fit into that narrative? In many ways, absolutely. Absolutely, it fits into that narrative. Because again, you're looking at the poses, you're looking at the facial expressions, you're looking at the clothing that he was wearing. These are clothes that you would not see on the everyday Black man. And just to do a comparison or contrast, they kind of did, I think it was Ebony that did something similar with Method Man. Now, when you look at the photographs with Method Man, Method Man was straight up G. You know what I mean? He hit the nail. It was masculine. He looked well. He looked dapper. He, you know, it fit his imagery and everything, right? So they could do it if they wanted to, but I think they want to find particular people that would help with the messaging. Because whether you say it, whether you believe it or not, there is messaging in everything that we do, from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night. And influence is a big thing for people that have large platforms. Mr. Major has a large platform. So let's use his
Right.
influence to push forward a particular style of message that we want to send. And that would be, I'll conclude there.
Okay. I mean, I see a picture, to me, it's just a picture because there was a whole photo shoot, with a Valentine's Day theme with roses and, he's bare chest and a lot of women, see him as a heartthrob and sex symbol and, and they enjoyed these pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting they use this to be the cover shot. Maybe I think the one with the roses might have been a good cover shot, really, for the Valentine's Day theme. But you see a deeper meaning and message there to whittle away his masculinity.
Yes, there's definitely.
Okay.
But and that's the thing. See, that's the thing about. Let me address something really quickly because I hear a lot of times there's a lot of conversations going around about protection, right? When you ask for protection, when you ask a man for protection, you're asking a man to see down the wheel of time for a potential threat or a potential problem, that something that might ensue that could disrupt the peace or the normalcy of the household, right? Or of the relationship. You're asking a man to look down the wheel of time. And men, for the most part, if we are in our nature, we're going to be looking for the potential threat. We're going to be looking for that potential threat. Now, most of the time, or if not all the time, the threat is real, not imagined. The threat is real, not imagined. So when the man is looking to protect not only himself, but those that are in his sphere of influence, he's going to be looking for the potential threat. And the emasculation of Black men has been an ongoing process, has been an ongoing issue. Again, this is nothing new. It's been an ongoing issue for quite some time. And there's been a lot of heterosexual Black men that have spoken out against it.
Right.
Unfortunately, the looking down into the world of time, the protection piece of it has not carried any weight for a lot of people in our community. It hasn't carried weight because protection and security comes from the man. Protection and security comes from the man. This is why a large section of our community are clamoring for it. So if I'm going to be the protector, and if I'm going to be the one giving the security, if I'm going to be the one risking my life, then you must take my view, my perspective on what this potentially could do to the community. Other words, your cry for protection and security is invalid. It's completely invalid. And so what I'm telling you is that yes, although this might be to some nothing, because they're looking at it aesthetically. Oh, he's got the big muscles, he's a good looking guy. Oh, I like the pink on him. You're looking at it from an aesthetically pleasing perspective. But what is the messaging? Hollywood never does nothing without a message. Every movie, every TV, every sitcom, it may be art to some, but life imitates art. They said that for years. Life imitates form follows function. Jesus said it like this, not to get religious in the conversation, but Jesus said it like this: as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if I'm soaking in a particular imagery, if I'm soaking this thing in from Mr. Majors and how they set him up, there is a message that I take from that. There's a message that I'm getting from that. There's a message that the younger generation is getting from that. Don't tell me that it's not. I guarantee you
this is what it look like. This is what I okay.
There's a certain segment that would be completely on board for that. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Look at it. Men can dress like that, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Do your thing. But there is an underlying message in all of that.
All right. I mean, I guess I can, see your point of view of that. But what is the harm in these type of the messages and images. There's been conversations about other celebrities with shocking images. Little Nas X comes to mind with some imagery in his videos and things like that. Aside from, his sexuality, just the images that he puts out there, maybe some other celebrity walking the red carpet with something flashy on or what have you.
I mean, I understand the shock value. I understand that wholeheartedly. And then, like we kind of said earlier, we spoke earlier, controversy sells. Controversy keeps you relevant. When you can present shock value, you stay in the limelight because people are going to have ongoing conversations about what it is that you did. Either it's negative or positive. It's going to be an ongoing conversation. Our issue is, and I'm going to remain dedicated on this hill. Our issue is that for the most part, Black people are still discovering themselves. Black people are still constantly trying to discover who we are. So when you introduce something like this, it disrupts that whole pattern of us truly discovering who we are from an historical perspective, from where we are biblically, from where we are in this country, from where our stance is, the whole nine. When you begin to introduce something like this, and not only that, you have to think about it in terms of the generations that it will affect down the wheel of time. That's the other thing about it too, because for the most part, when the demise of the household took place, what was left to rear our children was television, and other forms of media that are raising the children. So the children are coming up with ideologies that are not necessarily the views of the parent. So the parents are not even necessarily parenting anymore. They're allowing social media, they're allowing other forms of media to parent their children. And how can you call yourself a parent when you're not parenting? You understand? So it's very detrimental. It's very detrimental in a host of ways, because again, it gives off the imagery. It's not just this. Black men have been painted as the face of criminality for a long time, even though we haven't been the criminals that a lot of people say we are. But you got to think about the film that was made, the black and white film, The Birth of a Nation by W.D. Griffith, in which white men played blackface, right? And they made black men the so evil, I can't find the word for it, but they made us solely responsible for the degradation of their women, being lazy, shiftless, stealing, raping, robbing. They made us that. So we couldn't control our narrative. They controlled our narrative. This is nothing new. Willie Horton, same thing.
That's true.
So it's effective only because we allow it. It's effective
right, because that Birth of a Nation film actually did very well, right? From my understanding. Yeah, we had to watch that in a film class in college, so yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, it did very well. And again, these are white men that was playing black men and saying black men are shiftless criminals. It's propaganda. It was a propagandist film. And you have to start looking at things in, at least give it balance. It scares me when people just accept something like this and not look deeper into it. It really scares me, because you're eating from that plate and not necessarily saying, okay, well, hold on. Let me do a little bit more digging. Let me do a little bit more research. Let me at least give the balance or listen to a different perspective as to why this might be detrimental. It scares me. And black folks, for the most part, have had their way with eating from everybody else's plate, which again keeps us from the trajectory that we're supposed to be on in trying to get ourselves together. Black man, black woman, community, family. Something is always introduced to take us off that course. So again, I don't know Brother Majors. I don't know nothing about him other than that he's an actor, right? I don't know his lifestyle. I don't know his love who he's in love with, if he's in love with anybody, or relationship information. I know nothing about that, but I do know imagery. They did the
Right.
same thing. They did the same thing with um what's his name? Wesley Snipes. Here's
Mm-hmm.
Wesley Snipes playing Blade. I mean, a big, strong, virulent, masculine black man that was taking out vampires, right? He was slaying them, and everybody was on board with Blade. Blade was the man. Then all of a sudden, here comes, and I don't know when the movie actually came out, but all of a sudden here comes Julie Tu Wong Fu, where they made him put on the
Mm-hmm.
dress, and he
Mm-hmm.
had to act effeminate. This big muscle bound man, he had to act effeminate and put on the dress.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle said something similar. They try to make him put on the dress. So it's messaging, it's imagery, it's influence 100% of the time. And if I can get you to do what I want you to do, because remember, I stated earlier about contractual agreements and how,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, these people and these companies own your imagery and your likeness, and they can do with it what they please, because you sign that contract, you sign that agreement. And if you
Right.
want to play ball with them and exceed and go to the next level and get these other benefits and whatnot, you have to do what they tell you to do. You have to do it.
True. I mean, yeah, this easily could have been another type of Valentine's Day image. Him in a tuxedo with some roses, or maybe giving flowers to his daughter. I think the article said he had a young daughter or something like that. But they, strategic, plan to style him in this way to send a certain narrative across. So
And that's just not my thought.
I
There's
get
other
that.
people. Yeah, there's other people that are out there that's doing the same thing. But again, most people think that majority
Mm-hmm.
rules. I get it. You think the majority rules, but majority could be a small group of people. It doesn't have to be everybody co-signing Mr. Majors and what he's wearing. It could be a small group of people just saying, okay, yeah, we agree with this. We're going to put that out there, and people are going to love it because, number one, it was Valentine's Day. Number two, the aesthetics of it. And I'm just going to be honest, women are in love with aesthetics.
Right.
Women love things that are aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So
Yeah.
if I can get that over, if I can get it over and have a large majority of people co-sign that, then my job is done.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. So I want to move on to the next topic that we will discuss. There was also some controversy on the Twitter, Black Twitter, if you will, about a very popular comedian, Little Joe, and he made some tweets. Were these? They were, I guess, yeah, they were kind of some older tweets from 2012 about his daughter. And so we don't know if these were jokes or what have you. Some of them have foul language, but one of them that doesn't have curse words, and it says, "Whenever my daughter's period starts, that's when I'm gonna be the first dude to dog her out." And another one said, "Hey, Justin Bieber, could you please rape me and my daughter and then hit me with a bat if I get out of line?" And just kind of odd comments, including the daughter in the comments, and you just wonder about the narrative there. It almost make about some comments that rapper T.I. said about his daughter and her virginity and going with her to the GYN to make sure her her hymen was intact or what have you. Are these just jokes, or is there something deeper with this narrative here? What do you think about that?
Oh boy, I say, Jen, what have you gotten me into? But
I mean, some very odd comments. Very odd.
it is. I mean, Jesus, man.
But I mean, people are always going for the shock value with them, but
Yeah,
still, just say
yeah,
something about your daughter like
yeah.
that is just really weird and strange.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not going to disagree with that. To say those things in regards to your daughter, first of all, that would be totally embarrassing, to your daughter, for even making that public. It might be something that they
Right.
may have joked about in private, and maybe the daughter laughed at it, maybe not. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not in that household, but to make something like that public, is very problematic. Because the first thing I would have thought about would be the embarrassment that I would have caused to my daughter. That's the first thing I would have thought about. Would this be embarrassing to my
Are you
child?
thinking of talking about the TI thing more
I'm talking
so
about
with
both.
that?
I'm talking about both.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
talking
All
about
right.
both. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it. I get it. Maybe they were thinking along the lines of, in some regards, trying to protect their child. I don't know what their thought process was when they tried to articulate what they said. Duval may have been trying to just be funny. It just came out wrong. And let me say this at the same time. I also want to know who are these people that are digging up these tweets. That's the other thing about it too. You spending an enormous
Mm.
amount of time digging up these old tweets and
Mhm.
doing whatever it is that you want to do with those tweets. If this was 10, 15, 20 years or so ago, he may have put that out there jokingly. Again, I don't condone it, but at the same time, are you telling me that an individual's perspective can't change or their mindset can't change? This is their child. So, I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in that. If
Mhm.
freedom of speech is something that we all relish in and want to participate in, then you know people are gonna say some stuff that will be offensive. Now, again, I'm gonna stand and die on the hill that I talked about earlier. I would have never done that publicly. I never would have done
Mhm.
that public. I think that was very tacky. Even again, if he was trying to be funny, it didn't come out that way. It didn't come off that way.
Right.
The Ti situation, you know, um, it is what it is. But the first thing I would have thought about was the embarrassment that I may have caused, to my daughter. That's the first thing I would have thought about before putting any of that out there and trying to make myself look
Yeah.
like I'm such an involved father that I'm even going to go to the point where now I got to take her to the gynecologist to make sure that she's intact. It's a little bit too much. I mean,
Mhm.
I get that you want to be involved. I think this is where conversations come into play, and not only conversations. This is also where um, exemplification comes into play. You have to be the example as much as you possibly can, and what that means is that you got to try your best to walk that particular line, right, and show show as much as possible that you are the individual or the person, with these morals and this compass and this integrity and this character. You got to show that as much as possible to your child. Now you can do that and they can still stray. They can still go do something that is inappropriate. But as long as you have
Mhm.
that history within you that you are standing 10 toes down and on your belief, which means you're not going to go out there and do anything to embarrass the family, the wife, the children, your extended family, your neighbors, anything like that. As long as you stand 10 toes down on that, I think that's more appropriate than just doing some of the things that they did. Again, I don't know. I can't throw off on them to that degree because I don't know Ti. I don't know Duval. I don't know the reasoning behind what they did. But I can say, beyond the
Right.
shadow of a doubt, I would have thought about the public embarrassment, which to me is more the issue than anything else. It's the public embarrassment that was caused, that or potentially that may have been caused to their daughters for saying some of the things that they said and publicizing them. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned, a lot of the YouTubers or whoever these people are digging up these old tweets. There was even old tweets dug up about the, recently deceased Tyre Nichols, um, a narrative shared that maybe people should not support him um, and fight for his justice or what have you because of that. What do you think about that?
I think people got too much time on their hands. I think people are
Hmm.
sedated, uh, and they're full of vitriol. And because here's the thing, I know me, and if I take the time to go do something like that, you're in my crosshairs. You're essentially in my crosshairs, which means I have an issue with you. If I take the
Right.
time to go dig up something about somebody in particular and show it and say, look, see, this ain't who you think this person is. People will figure that out. People will figure it out. Every leper has to show its spots, right? People will figure out who's who.
Right.
But when you take the time to go and dig up something from about somebody that you don't even know, which is the other thing, you don't even know. When you take the time to go do that and you do it in a very hateful way, that shows more about you than about the person that you're trying to bury. That's more of a stain on your character than about the individual that you're trying to
Okay.
bury, right? Tyre Nichols, he suffered at the hands of 5, unfortunately, Black police officers and died as a cause of it. It should be left there. His family is suffering enough. And
Hmm.
for a lot of these people that want to scandalize his name, you got to think about the fact that the man did have a mother. You got to think about the fact the man, it had aunts, cousins, which a lot probably
Right.
were
And a
female.
child. Yeah.
They were female.
Hmm.
So how are you going to go through all of that and dig up and try to throw dirt on this man's name to prove what point that he wasn't clean? Listen, if today there was some magical potion to bring up everybody to dig up dirt in everybody's past, I guarantee you there would not be one hand clean, not one.
Hmm.
So don't sit up and then dig up stuff about people, man, and try to make them look unclean when you yourself got skeletons and bones in your closet that is probably worse than what the hell you dug up about him. So I think we waste a lot of time doing that to try to prove a specific point. I think we waste a lot of time doing that. Whatever the man did,
Hmm. Hmm.
he got he took it to the grave. Whatever he did, he took it to the grave. You're not a forensic pathologist. You're not any of that, right? You don't deal in the criminal field whatsoever. So why are you going and digging up this stuff about this man and he's deceased? We need to quit it.
True.
We need to stop.
True. Right, because it doesn't change the fact that there was a abuse of power and a crime committed on that day. So, and we still are waiting for proper case and charges and trial to be carried out. So yeah,
And you need to say that
definitely.
again. It doesn't negate the fact that a crime was committed. Do what
Yeah.
you will, but it doesn't negate the fact that the man died at the hands of 5 Black police officers who beat him to death,
Hmm.
and a mother's child is gone. Now you got to ask yourself the question. For those that have done that, ask your question: what was his relationship like with his mother? Why don't you do that research? Why don't you call on his mother and ask his mother about what their relationship was like? And if she says they had a loving relationship, then to me you need to shut your goddamn mouth. You need to leave. You need to leave that man alone. Because if she says
Yeah.
that my son, was a good son, was a loving son, we had a great relationship, then everything else that you bringing up, that you're going to dig up, it nullifies all of that. Because that's what matters, not what the hell you dug up that you don't have no relationship with these people whatsoever. You don't have no connection, but you bringing up dirt on the man's name that's deceased. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, man. That people would do something like that.
It is, but it's always something. to keep up with the Joneses and what's going on Twitter. It's really interesting. I usually don't get into the pop culture thing because, it's really problematic when you dig deeper into it. But, you know,
It's very problematic, and like I say, at the end of the day, what I want to know from these particular sexes is what is the end goal. That's all I want to know, because
mhm.
we can fight all day long. The people that's going back and forth over the internet and having these dialogues or debates or whatever the case may be. What's the end goal? Like, what do you get at the end of the rainbow? Is what I'm trying to figure out. You know,
Okay.
because because if all you're wanting to do is to get on the internet, vent, and then try to discredit and malign and scandalize people and stuff like that, then again, if you don't have ammunition to do that, then will you even be relevant?
That's true. I mean, I know
That's your
some
whole
of the
platform.
sources, come from like a feminist perspective and things like that. And they usually want to amplify the woman's, voice in the scenario, usually, but,
Okay.
sometimes,
It's just
sometimes it's at
it's
the
just
cost of,
Yeah, but there's too many casualties, and people are not recognizing the
hmm
casualties. A small victory does not mean that
that's true.
you won a war. Small victories don't mean you won a war.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
you know,
I
do do
mean,
do what you will, but at the
yeah,
end of the day, if it doesn't have an end goal, it's fruitless.
okay. I get that. I get that. But I understand trying to seek out a perspective of what supports a woman or what have you, which usually
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm so yes, you know, women, yes, supported, protected, loved, all of that, 100%.
mhm, mhm,
But at the same time, you can't. Okay, I'm gonna play the game with you. Do what you will, and it totally eradicate what some would call the patriarchy. Go ahead, because the one
mhm,
thing I understand is that, and again, I didn't major in anything, but you don't have to major in, you don't have to have a degree in a lot of stuff to understand stuff. Ecology is a big thing. If you get rid
mhm.
of too much of a thing, there's an imbalance. Go for it. There's already an imbalance in society in the first place. So if you
Right, true.
think getting rid of and completely eradicating men or patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, is going to do some some good, good, do your thing. Go for it.
Mm, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, we talked about the little Duval prior tweets, the prior comments from Ti, and then also there were a new discovery that there were prior tweets from the deceased Tyree Nichols that some people had issues with. So
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it.
it's,
And for the most
business.
part,
You know,
yeah, I mean, but these social media warriors, man, they need to back up a little bit. The social media warriors need to back
hmm
up a little bit because again, you're diluting the pool of great information and good information that would really benefit people, and you're introducing a bunch of garbage and negativity into that. And if the goal is to get people to understand and to get people to listen, well, some of you are not doing well in that regard. And I would be, and I'm gonna say this much: I would be very careful about um, leading these people. I'd be very
hmm
careful because to be in leadership today is almost signing a death warrant. And the reason I say that is because if you go
as far
down,
as
if you go, I'm going to explaining. If you go down the road of having quote unquote followers to follow you, and you're misleading the people, See, the one thing I know about truth is where truth comes, it knocks out all falsehood, right? And if you're the bearer of falsehood and false information and negativity and vitriol and hatred, because it's going to come across in your speech. It's going to come across in your speech. You can pick it up easily. You can be saying the most interesting things and the most explosive things that, you know, that you think is really relevant. But if your spirit is to do harm, if your spirit is to do ill, if your spirit is to defame, all of that, it's just a matter of time before the law, that cyclical law in nature, it's gonna come right back, gonna come right back to you. And from what I understand is it comes back much worse. So as you have these platforms, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful because again, people watch us. People watch us, they follow us, right? And the deliverance in the spirit, if the spirit is to truly help, you know, that'll be picked up. But all I see is, for the most part, is people that have these platforms that are saying some of the things that you and I are talking about right now. They're trauma bonding with other people that have had maybe negative experiences or just want to get on the train of, I'm filled with rage and hatred and envy, and I need an outlet. So you're the one I'm going to choose today as the conduit in order for me to release how I feel. So yes, I'm today, excuse my language, but I'm gonna use that platform to shit on all men because that's the way I feel today. Right? That's how I feel today. So I'm gonna use your particular platform because you're the conduit. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful, man. The people are nothing to be played with. We're in a day and a time now, man, where the people are nothing to be played with, and everybody is trying to seek truth. And people are coming up with all these different ideologies. They're coming up with all these different types of my truths, and they're putting it in the airwaves. And because you can get people to follow you, you can get a cat to follow you. If you put food in your hand, what does that mean? That don't necessarily mean you're a leader. That just means you got somebody to follow you. And sometimes followers are the most, they can be some of the most foolish people because we follow blindly. Sometimes we follow blindly, which brings us right back to the imagery that we were talking about with Jonathan Majors. We looked at that blindly. So, but what's the messaging? What is the influence? What's the trigger behind that? And I know a lot of times we're in that space because I remember growing up this way too. A lot of my peers didn't want to think. They just wanted to party, smoke, drink, have sex. They didn't want to think. I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
And that's where a lot of us are at. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal. Just let me be in my little bubble and enjoy what I see right now. But problem is that, again, at least about 15 years later, we're going to see the effect of this, which means we're not looking down into the wheel of time and doing the mathematical work to say, if this, again, causality, cause and effect. If the effect comes out like this, that is because that caused it. It's just that simple.
Okay. That's good. Very good. And then anything else to share regarding the I'm gonna beat this to the ground with the Twitter and all that. Anything else to share on that?
I just think, that, information is good. Information is good. And a lot of times we're getting information so quickly that a lot of us don't have time to process the information. And what I mean by that is thoroughly process it, because you can't process something in about 2 seconds. You got to give real thought, which means you got to give it time. So for me, I'm kind of careful at what I ingest, and I'm not a social media individual. What I have to stay on there to get my news. I don't need to go to social media to get my news. Now this was something different because I didn't have my nose to the ground about this. Right, it was brought to my attention, but um, I just think that for the most part, we have to begin to check people that are doing things that are eroding the fabric or helping to erode the fabric of society and having these different
Okay.
platforms to do so. You know, there's nothing wrong with having dialogue. There's nothing wrong with having conversation, but we must begin to check the emotional
Mhm.
makeup or emotional wellness that we may or may not have when we start to have these discussions, because it's not gonna move the needle forward at all. It's not gonna do that. You know, you're just venting, you're getting off information, you're saying you wish, people ill. But I'm telling you, when it's visited back upon you, you're going to remember what you tried to visit on somebody else. You're going to
Mhm.
remember that because things are moving much quicker than what they used to in recent years. Things are moving way faster. So
Oh, for sure.
I
Definitely.
would just say be careful, man. And for those that call themselves leaders, because you got a following, be careful. Be very
Okay.
careful. These are not your followers. They're not yours.
Mm.
But as
Right. And
always,
it's like
I,
it's not guaranteed either.
yeah, it's not
So,
guaranteed. First and foremost, people are fickle in the first place. We're very fickle, and
mhm.
we're coming up on a time where if you really look at it from a biblical standpoint, we're coming up on a time where the people are clamoring for what is right and good to be gotten rid of. There's a large section of people, and that was biblically, like just about before the fall and destruction and the betrayal of even Jesus himself. People are calling for
Mhm.
everything that is right and true and good to be gotten rid of, and we want the artificial things because we think the artificial things are the actual things, right? It's the reality, and that's not the reality. So, but then again, in anyway, that's going off into something else. But I love the fact that you asked me these questions. I love that I can give a perspective.
Yeah.
Again, it's just I'm here to make folks think. I'm not here to say whether I'm right or I'm wrong. You're not gonna get my ego
Mhm.
involved in none of this kind of stuff, right? I don't go by the flesh. I just want you to think.
Mhm.
That's all I want you to do. And if you find some validity in what I said, go for it. If you don't like what I said, discard it. That's it. So hopefully
Right,
my
for
delivery
sure.
was pretty good.
Definitely. I appreciate you sharing and taking time out to join us on the platform to share any projects or anything special coming up. When can we look for another podcast episode?
I do have some I've recorded. Just life
Mhm.
happens, but I will be publishing them, and then I'm also in the works to start some brand new projects that are separate from the All Things Black podcast. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'm excited about those. Once they're finalized, that information will be put out there, and go from there, man. And and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Black Podcasters Association. So for those that do listen to Jen's podcast, which is a phenomenal podcast, by the way, make sure when you listen to this podcast that you guys go and research and do your due diligence and look up the Black Podcasters Association, which was founded by Corey Gums, also Afros and Audios, which is our brother Talib Jazir, who also is one of the founders of Afros and Audios. And these are basically a collective of Black people that are professional, very knowledgeable about what it is that they want to do. And they're podcasters, right? And they have a
Mhm.
bevy of products and services that they would love to begin to get out, to other people so that they can partake of those products and services. And again, it doesn't really cost much to join. There's a ton of benefits from it. So
Mhm.
make sure you should look out for the Black Podcasters Association. Follow them on Twitter. Follow them on Mighty Networks, I believe it is. And yeah, man, just look out for that group, and continue to listen to Woke by Accident podcast.
Yes, definitely. I agree. Here, and shout out to Corey and Talib and the good folks at Afro's Audios. So we'll have those links posted too with Daryl's also. All right. Anything else, Daryl?
No, as always, just thank you so much for allowing me on your platform, and again, continue to do the great work that you have been doing, because it's needed.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're welcome here anytime. You may be hearing from me again. So, yep, we'll be in touch and I appreciate you. So, hey guys, tap in. We'll have those links posted where we talked about Black Podcasters Association. Tap in with us there. Good folks, good information. You may want to start a podcast. You never know. Find out what some resources to help you do that. So yeah, we love you guys and take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out. And also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. And please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.